If this was my first August in crypto markets and specifically in bull markets, then I may be a little bit concerned about this correction, but it's not. And so I'm not concerned at all. And so the big questions that you should be asking as well, is this correction over? And what the hell are we buying? Because we're not concerned about this correction. I'm going to show you exactly the data that gives me all the confidence that there's nothing to worry about this correction, and that it's absolutely normal. And I'm going to show you exactly what I'm nibbling on. Also, I've got some charts that will show us whether this correction is actually over or not. And I think that's the big question in everybody's mind. So we're going to keep it short, sharp, and to the point today. Just alpha after alpha after alpha. If that sounds good to you, we're going to go on the rides of our lives. Let's go, guys. GM, wakey, rise and shine. Lots going on in the markets. The August correction is here. For those of you who are worried about the August corrections and you haven't been here before, don't worry, guys. Every August, specifically in every bull market August, there is a correction. The good news is that the correction actually ends early in August. And we're going to talk about that, and I'm going to show you exactly when we're going to buy. I'm going to show you whether or not I think there's another leg down on this correction. Before we do, though, if you're not subscribed to this channel, well, subscribe to this channel, 1.1726332. Also, I did launch another channel over the weekend. It's called Crypto Insider. Now, that is specifically the channel where I'm going to be dropping a whole lot of videos because I want to make a whole lot of content. But the problem is that the Banter channel is so full with Sheldon and Kyle and everybody else. So I decided to launch another channel, which is called Crypto Insider. And I'm starting to make a whole lot of content on that channel. The first content that I made there is I made a specific video for people who've got $1,000 and they want to make big returns with that $1,000. If you want to join that channel, there's a link to that channel. Did you guys put a link in this show? There should be a link. There should be a link. Here we go. Let's actually go to this show and you can actually see where the link is. I suggest you go there, and I suggest maybe go and watch that show if you've got a $1,000 portfolio, if you know someone's got a $1,000 portfolio. Okay, it should be somewhere here. He said he's going to put it in there. All right, we will put it in so that you guys can actually share it. But definitely, I do think that it's worth actually putting in there. All right, let's talk about the August correction. And remember, if you want to help me with distribution here, just smash the like button. It's nothing to you, but to me, it like really gets me going. It gives me energy. It shows me that you guys really appreciate what I'm doing, and it gets distribution, which is it's like a win-win for everyone. All right, so August corrections. Not surprised at all by the correction. If you've been here for a while, you know that these corrections shouldn't trouble you. Not only shouldn't they trouble you as corrections in a bull market, but specifically August in the post-halving year, post-election year, there is always a correction. Now, we know that August is a really bad month for crypto overall. In fact, if you look at the data actually shows that August is actually the worst month for crypto. So it's got the most amount of reds. And if you look at the median return, and I think the mean return for June is a little bit lower. But in general, August is not a very good month for crypto. And there's a lot of reasons why you could say it is. People are on vacation. They're not really interested. It's the last month of the summer vacation. It's where everyone that hasn't taken a summer vacation basically goes and takes a summer vacation. So you can narrow it down to that. Or you can just say, look, it's pretty obvious that every August, and this is 2013, this is the 2012 was the halving, 2013 was the post-halving year. There was a 9.3% dip in the beginning of August after a local high in July, and that went down 9.3%, and we bottomed on the 8th of August. Then let's go to the next post-halving election year, post-election, post-halving year. The local highs were in July, and then we went 17% down from the local highs, and then that happened on the 2nd of August, and then we started to climb from there. But look what happened after we climbed. We pretty much went parabolic, right? Then again, in 2021, local highs in July, bottomed on the 5th of August, early in August, and then we went back up and we went pretty parabolic. Doesn't look like it, but if you go from here, that's 37.5 to 53.5. In fact, let's talk a little bit about 2021, because if anything, this cycle seems like it's very similar to the 2021 cycle, right? And you can see that what happened in the 2021 cycle, I'm going to just zoom out just so we can actually see August. That's August, right? So that's the end of July. We've got the local top at the end of July at that level over here, which is 42,500. And then we dipped all the way down to 13% to 37,000. And what you can see is there was a very quick dip, which bottomed on the 4th of August And then we climbed. Now we climbed from 36,500 all the way up to 53,000 with I mean, it's tiny corrections along the way. So if you're new here, then August scare you. If you've been here for a while, then what you know is that August usually, like what we normally get in August is in the beginning of August, we get a correction. The main thing to note about this correction is that it's not one of the big corrections of the last part of the bull market. In fact, if you look what happened here, I think this was like mid-September. So like, if I remember correctly, that's mid-September. It was actually, there we go. And what you can see is that here, we actually dipped 25%. So we are going to, in this aggressive part of the bull market, as you can see, we are going to get a whole lot of these little corrections. In August, a lot of them happen. And then we always get one further along towards the end of the cycle. So this is like a mini correction, and there could be one more sometime in September. I remember, if I remember correctly, every time people come back from vacation, there's some kind of correction, and then we basically land up going straight back up again. Here's some good news around these August corrections. So number one, when you look at them, if you look specifically at the post-elections, post-halving years, 9 out of 13, so in August, 9 out of 13 times, we never went lower after August. The only exception being the only exceptions being in the bear market, right? So whatever number we get to in August, we actually never go below that number unless we're in a bear market, right? But even the bear market, so let's just go here and have a look. So we go down in August, and then we recover, and you see we never ever went. In fact, we went, but much later we went below that, right? So what you can see here is 9 out of 13 times we never went lower than in August. So generally, August is like the beginning of the going back, like the beginning of going back up. Also, as I said to you, in the last part of the bull market, in the last part of the 4-year cycle, if we think the 4-year cycle is still intact, so you will get a few small corrections, and then there was like one big correction. And that's the big correction over. You can see it. Let me show it to you guys. Where is my Bitcoin chart? Okay, there. So that is the big correction over here. That's the one that goes all the way from here all the way down to here. Bitcoin went down 25%. I think others went down like 32 or 33%. So that is the corrections that you can expect specifically in the month of August. Absolutely nothing to be worried about. Last bull run, Bitcoin corrected 7 times, as you guys know. Minus 17, minus 32, minus 26, minus 28, minus 51, minus 25. This is normal. You want the returns, you got to take the risk, and you got to sit around. You got to sit around for the actual corrections. All right, now let's talk about, well, what's causing this correction? Because, I mean, okay, if you want a reason, like if you really need a reason, let me give you the reasons. Even though the real reason why there's a correction is very simple. We went up for a long time. We had a very violent move in Bitcoin. We went up all the way from 98,000 to 122,000, and the RSIs and the momentum got slightly overextended. And when that happens, generally you get a correction. The RSI is starting to come down, which is a very good sign. It means this correction could pretty much nearly be over. We'll talk about that in a second. Look at Ethereum. Ethereum came all the way from 1,400 to 3,600. Again, RSIs very high. When you have high RSIs, generally you get some kind of consolidation or some kind of correction. You can see it over here. You can see it over here. You can see it over here. You can pretty much see it everywhere, right? So that's the reason why the market went down. You can follow people on Twitter, and they'll tell you, oh goodness, there was a glitch, there was a correction in the money, in the M2 money supply, and that's what happened. Maybe. But the reality is, whenever you have a run and the market gets overheated, the market then pulls back, and there's nothing you can do about it. You can also follow this line, which is the USDT dominance line. So what we know about the USDT dominance line, it's been following this 7-year upward trend, and every time we test this trend line, right, then we get some kind of correction. Here it is over here. So when we test that trend line, when the trend line goes to like 3.75 or 4, you see it changes because it's an upward sloping trend line. Generally, the Bitcoin price peaks and then it starts going back down. So look, that's the reality of what's going on. If you want to understand the fundamentals of what's causing this correction, and again, this is not a fundamentals correction because there's nothing happening fundamentally that would cause a correction. if you want to blame it on something, that's not a problem. I'll give you some things to blame it on. It's very easy to just blame. So the first thing is you can blame it on tariffs, even though, guys, we know that this whole tariff thing is going to pass because Trump doesn't want increased prices, because if he gets increased prices, he's going to have higher inflation. If he gets higher inflation, Jerome Powell can't reduce interest rates. So how many times in the cycle are you going to fall for this whole tariffs thing? Like, you join it again. Guys, this will pass. Like every other tariff announcement has passed. We know this is a negotiating tactic. You could also blame this on the nuclear submarines that Trump has sent to Russia after remarks by, I think his name is Dmitry Medvedev, whatever his name is. He's now, Trump said on Truth Social that he ordered 2 nuclear submarines to position in the appropriate reasons, just in case these foolish and inflammatory statements are more than that. So, if you think that this is the beginning of nuclear war, then yeah, maybe there's a good fundamental reason for the market to go down. The other reason why crypto might be going down is because of MicroStrategy. I did a show about that on, was it Friday? It was Friday. On Friday, I did a show about MicroStrategy and how they may slow down on their buying, because what Michael Saylor pretty much announced was, he said, look, unless the MicroStrategy stock trades at 2.5 times NAV or above, we're not going to dilute the stock even further. He basically feels that the stock is undervalued, and therefore he's not issuing more shares to buy more Bitcoin with, right? But at the same time, he has also launched like Strike and STRC, which is like the new offerings right now. For those of you who don't know, basically Stretch is what it's called. Stretch is a new short-term debt not debt instrument. This is the thing. This is a new short-term instrument. It's a preferred share instrument that gives holders 10% per annum, right? So it's not a debt instrument, it's a preferred share instrument. Now, the reason why this is so smart is because debt matures, right? Like when you issue debt for a company, it's either 1-year debt or 2-year debt or 5-year debt or 10-year debt or 20-year debt, and it matures. And on maturity, you either have to refinance it or repay the debt. Here, this is equity with a dividend, right? So equity with a dividend never, ever, ever comes due. So this is what Michael Saylor is doing, is he's just saying, look, for now, I'm not going to dilute the MSTR shareholders, but I am going to do more smart financial engineering, and I've launched this new instrument, which he calls a treasury Bitcoin. So he's got MSTR, which is an amplified Bitcoin, which is leveraged Bitcoin, then STRK, which is structured Bitcoin, and then STRC, which is treasury Bitcoin. It's basically you're getting 10% return on your treasury. So it could be that. That could be why the markets are correcting. The other reason could be because of the revision of the jobs numbers. Now, this is a double-edged sword. This came out on Friday. What happened on Friday was the jobs numbers came out, and the jobs numbers were, the non-farm payroll numbers were 73,000 and the expected was 106,000. But the May numbers were restated, and they fell from 144,000 to just 19,000. Okay, now what does that mean? It means that effectively the unemployment rate in the United States is way, way, way worse than Trump has been, than Trump thought it was. And than Powell thought it was. And Trump has accused, or I think he actually fired, or I don't know if Trump fires, yeah, he actually fired the labor statistics boss after the release. Because what Trump said was, he said, look, you guys did this to make Kamala look good, to make Kamala look like the Democrats look good before the election, that the jobs numbers are strong, and then you revise the numbers down so that I have to basically take the hit. That's basically what Trump is saying. Now, what is the relevance of this? This is quite important. So what this means is that every time we hear Powell talking, I might get confused between Powell and Trump. Every time we hear Powell talking, the first thing that he always says is the economy is in a good position. And I mean, let's listen. This is every FOMC press conference. Let me unmute the site because
my colleagues and I remain squarely focused on achieving our dual mandate goals of maximum employment and stable prices for the benefit of the American people. Despite elevated uncertainty, the economy is in a solid position. The unemployment rate remains low, and the labor market is at or near maximum employment.
The labor market is at or near maximum employment. Well, is it? You thought it was. But now the data is saying, hold on, there was a mistake in the data. By the way, not Powell's fault, and it's not even the Fed's fault, it's got nothing to do with the Fed. There was a mistake in the data. And actually, these numbers are much, much, much worse than we thought. And so there's a lot of unemployment in the US, which means that the economy is slowing down a lot. So if you look at this, it shows the non-farm payrolls, which they thought they were going to have an increase of 144,000, actually went to 19,000. That's way, 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 way lower, right? And so they revised them down with the largest downward revision since 2020. So what does this mean? Well, it means that the economy is not as strong as Powell has made it out to be, or thought it was. You can't say made it out to be because he was obviously working off this data. But the data he was working off was wrong. So what does that mean? Well, it means that now the Fed is actually behind the curve. Because these job numbers were revised downwards, what it means is, it means that the economy has been much weaker than they actually thought it was. So what does that mean? Well, it means that they need to start stimulating this economy immediately. And if they don't, the problem is that it's going to get worse and worse and worse. Otherwise, we're going to fall into a massive recession. That's pretty much what these numbers are saying. And so immediately when that happened, the probabilities of an interest rate cut went to 85.7%. So now we almost guaranteed an interest rate cut in September. It means that the dissents from the governors of the Fed that published dissents last week were actually justified. And it also means that right now the market is again expecting 3 rate cuts. The highest probability is we're going to get 3 rate cuts this year. That is what this basically all means, right? So that's actually another reason why I'm not that worried about this correction. Because what's just on the horizon? Well, just over the horizon. And I say that because the next FOMC meeting actually happens here. I think it's on the 17th of September. And now a lot of people are actually saying, look, the problem is that the Fed is now behind the curve. The Fed is now behind the curve. The labor market is crying out for a rate cut. Unlike before when Powell said that the labor market is not crying out for a rate cut, it's crying out for a rate cut now. Inflation back down to 1.65%, which is what our friends at Trueflation actually say. And so some people are saying, and I've seen this on Polymarket as well, that there could be a small chance, a very, very, very small chance of a 0.5 or double rate cut in September. So right now, there's the probability on this of a double rate cut is close to 0. But I've heard a lot of people on Twitter, and I actually posted on Friday night, and I said, a double rate cut in September, it's not, if we get good inflation numbers, or bad inflation numbers, low inflation numbers, between now and then there is a good chance that they actually go to 2 rate cuts instead of 1, because they're so far behind the curve, right? So that's why these numbers are actually super important. So I think that's pretty much like why we had a correction, and that's the fundamentals and the technicals of why we had a correction. Now the big question is this correction over, or is there another leg down? So look, I don't know if it's over or if there's another leg down. There's a lot of chartists on everywhere that, some are saying it's over, some are saying it's another leg down. I stole Dylan's charts today. He's calling actually for this kind of pattern touch in this zone over here, which by the way, he called on spot on. He then called for a bit of a bounce, and then he called it back down where ETH will go just under $3,000. He took the same chart on Bitcoin. He said exactly, called it here. We wicked into his area here, a little bit of a bounce, and then he says he called it back down to like 107, and maybe even a third bounce over here, and he's using the fib levels to do it. I wouldn't be surprised if there's one more leg down here. I don't think that we've shaken out like all the fearful people. I don't think that we've shaken out it doesn't feel like a real correction. But that said though, August corrections aren't the real corrections. So I wouldn't be surprised if this is it, and then we carry on going up until September, and then we have a slightly bigger correction. So that's my views. My thesis remains the same. We're going into a very aggressive part of the bull market now. I do think that ETH is going to lead the way here. I like this chart here, where it showed that Bitcoin tapped once, twice, and then 3 times, and then broke out, and then once, twice, 3 times, and then broke out on ETH. I do think ETH is actually going to lead this thing, right? So the question is, then what are you doing right now? So in this correction, and again, I say I wouldn't be surprised if there's one more leg down. I wouldn't be, but we'll have a bounce now. And then depending on whether we put in a higher high, if we can put in a higher high, correction canceled, bounce canceled. If not, then I think you need to be careful not to get sucked in after one correction. So we want to come here and we want to put in a higher high. We want to go like somewhere over the 119,000. Clear the 119,000, everything's good. If not, then we're putting in a lower high. And then that means that we could break down again. Which is what we have to be prepared for. Regardless, I think that this is in the big scheme of things. We are again repeating this pattern over here. We are repeating 2021 pattern over here. We're repeating this pattern over here, and we're gonna go higher, and it's gonna be quite aggressive. So, I mean, start nibbling on the way down here. Maybe you'll get another charge to nibble on the way down here. What are you nibbling? So, you know, my thesis. I don't want to, at the risk of sounding extremely boring. I don't want to sound like extremely boring. But for me, it's pretty simple what I'm doing with my cash. Like, I've got my core portfolio, which you guys know you can follow. Then you can follow it on Botsfolio. Obviously, you know that. Also, I'm looking for relative strength in the market. So I posted this on Frontrunners this morning. I said, look, for me, I'm not sure if this correction is over, and it does look like there are some tokens that are just going to outperform. The one that showed extreme resilience, pump, like I really think that this thing is about to go. I've loaded myself up with a massive position of pump. I would say I'm pretty irresponsibly long pump. Why? Because I just think that there's no way that they sit on a pile of $2 billion in cash and don't do anything with it. And you can see so far, my conviction is paying off on pump because I've been buying it at around 26, 27. Athena's showing huge strength. In fact, we can just call out the bubbles and you can just look at it here on the bubbles on the 1 day. What are the ones that are showing strength? Athena showing a lot of strength. I see TON is slightly down. They announced a treasury company today. There was an announcement today of a treasury company. So there it is. That's the announcement of the treasury company. $558 million TON treasury company. This one for me is interesting because Americans will now have access to start buying TON en masse, which they haven't actually had access to do. So that one is basically there. The other thing that I said yesterday, and I made a whole video about this yesterday. If you didn't watch that video yesterday, I highly recommend that you watch the video. It's this video about using bots to trade for you. Now, I want to have a little discussion around bots because I think it's super important that we get this out of the way. So number one is a lot of us invested in 𝗕𝗂𝗏 and Joseph Lubin bot, and when the market was going up, these bots were really performing well. And then when the market crashed, these bots performed. They perform better on the up and worse on the down because these are what you call directional bots. What are directional bots? They do well when the market goes in the direction that they're trading, and in this case, the direction is up. Now, what I noticed is that like 3 people jumped out of the Joseph Lubin bot because he went down 20%. This is exactly the time that you should be entering the bots, not exiting the bots. Why? Because it's exactly like a leverage trade. You don't sell at the bottom. You buy at the bottom and you sell at the top. And so for me, I'm leaving my positions here completely untouched because I know these are directional bots, and I know that my thesis is that the market is pretty much going to go up. I also made a video yesterday about grid bots, and you should actually go and watch that video. It's this video over here on the channel. Very important video. It's this killer strategy video over here. The main thing with these grid bots is grid bots trade in a grid in ranges. Now I want to show you how cool this is. So my Bitcoin trade is $49 down because I'm holding Bitcoin. But because the bot's been trading the grids, I'm $32 up on the grids. Like this bot over here is $8 down, but the grids are $4.15 up. And so even though the market's gone against us, we're still making money because the bot's trading on the grids, right? So these are like the best time to actually enter the bots is at the bottom of the range. And if you think this is the bottom of the range, this is probably the best time to be entering the bots because you make money directionally, but on the grid bots, you also land up making money on the grids. So I did this tutorial last night. For those of you who watched, let me know what you thought of it. I also, again, like the reason why I like the bot so much is because it's very simple. And I'm going to go through this again for people who didn't watch this yesterday. But the thing with coins, we're trying to make a 2x and a 3x and a 4x return on our coins, right? With bots, we're just trying to make 10 to 15% a month. And if we can do that consistently, right, with these aggressive bots, then you take $10,000, you make 15% on month one, you got 11.5. But then you invest the 11.5 at 15%, you got 13.25. And then you take the 13.25, you invest it at 15%, you get 15,000. So at the end of it, you got in two years, you got yourself 329,000 if you can maintain this run rate. Now, obviously, that depends whether or not you can actually maintain this run rate. Chances are you won't, but I'm just trying to show you what can happen if. And so I kind of look at this and I say, okay, that's a 32x return. I'm not going to make 32x on any of my altcoins. I know that, you know that, everybody knows that, right? So yeah, so what I suggest is, in fact, after this show, straight after the show, I'm going to, at 10:30 EST, which is like in 35 minutes, to this show, straight after the show, I'm going to at 10:30 EST, which I'm doing a Zoom call. Yeah, the link for the Zoom call is over here. So I'm doing a Zoom call with frontrunners, with our frontrunner community, and you guys are welcome to come. Obviously, the frontrunners are going to get a priority in this call. But I'm going to actually show you exactly how to set up the bots, and I can answer some of your questions and stuff like that. I want you guys to really feel comfortable with the bots. I've been trading them for like months now. I've been trading them for like 3-4 months now. I'm very, very comfortable with them. I really, really, really understand them. And I want to show you why I understand them so well. And yeah, so if you want to join, that's happening at 10:30 EST today, straight after the show. The Zoom link is actually over here. We're going to start that at 10:30 EST. Yeah, and I'm going to walk you through setting them up. I suggest though, by the time you do that, sign up for Pionex and then sign up for your deposit bonus, because like, if you sign up, you can get up to $1,000 deposit bonus. And also it's a no KYC exchange, so you know what you need to do. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it for today. I mean, I don't think we should beat around the bush here. I'm not worried about this correction. I am expecting a bounce now. Whether or not this bounce is the complete end of the correction, I don't know. We'll wait and see. If it gives us a higher high, it is. If not, then there might be one more leg down. I wouldn't mind one more leg down, because if we had one more leg down, then you say, okay, now the correction is really over. You know what I mean? Like now the correction is really, really, really over. All right, I see people talking about, is Run Indian, is Run Jewish, is Run Palestinian? Does it matter? Does Run wanna be Indian? Someone says you can't use Pionex in Canada. You can't even use, you can't use anything in Canada. You can't use it in Australia. I'm sure you can. I'm sure you can if you have a VPN. But who am I to tell you that? VPN? Someone say VPN? 𝗕𝗂𝗏, did you say VPN? I heard nothing. All right, let's just quickly check the newsroom, see if there's been no news since we actually started the show. Because, you know, sometimes we start the show and then there's like breaking news, but there's no breaking news today. Which means that I shall see you guys again tomorrow. Remember, if you do have $1,000 portfolio, go to, there's a, what? There, right here. You see this, there's the link over here. Just click on that. Bang. And remember, we finally reached the last part when you get to that channel, just subscribe to that channel and put bell notifications on, because that's not a daily, we're not doing daily shows on this channel. This is like a channel for like every 2-3 thing, every 2 or 3 days. Someone says, no, Run's not Dutch, guys. Bro, do I look Dutch? Blonde hair, blue eyes. Come on, guys. Come on. You know better. You know better. Although I might be in Amsterdam for the GP, the Grand Prix, at the end of the month. All right, I'll see you guys again tomorrow. Until then, trade well, my friends.